Hello guys, how are we doing? I recently did a poll on my YouTube channel where I asked what content would people prefer to see first, whether it was spawn guides for each hardpoint map or general map guides including callouts, jump spots, line of sight, etc. 70% of you guys said that you would prefer the spawn guides, so that's what I'm here for. Today we're going to be looking at sub-base hardpoint spawns for MW3 ranked play. I know MW3 ranked play isn't quite out just yet, but this is going to be one of the maps in the rotation so you guys can learn this, take sprint screens, learn what you need to for when MW3 ranked play does eventually come out. Screenshots of this will be in my Discord server shortly after the video gets uploaded, so if you want to see proper PDFs or JPEGs of these, you can feel free to visit my Discord down below in the description. So kicking it off with P1. P1 is a very mixy hill in the middle of the map, and it's almost like a hill where you're trying to get as much time as possible off of it, but also thinking about P2, which is where this blue area is currently here. Just for the format of this video, so some of you guys may have missed this for MW2, the circles are the spawn points, and then the shaded areas in, like this blue bit here and this pink bit here, it's where you can block those spawns. So I'm not only going to be showing you spawn points, I'm going to be showing you how to block them as well, so you can manipulate spawns as much as you want. So P1's here, and there are two major spawn points. This blue spawn point behind P2, or this general vicinity over here, and this spawn point out the edge, like behind warehouse, just at the entrance of the tunnel. They're the two major spawn points, and they're sort of equidistant to the P1 hardpoint. If you want to block this blue spawn for the enemy team, you need to make sure, say you want P2 spawns, which are here, you want to make sure you've got teammates in either of these blue areas, and that will spawn the enemy team out. If you have no one in this general vicinity on your team, and you've also got people here, they will spawn in pink. That's the next logical spawn for them to spawn in. However, pink spawn can be blocked fairly easily. You can be in warehouse, or you can be in the general vicinity of this area. I haven't marked this on the map, but if you can see a spawn point, it will be blocking it on competitive. I know pubs isn't quite the same, but on competitive, you can see a spawn point, you can be blocking it. But I didn't include that in my little fill-ins here because otherwise the whole map would be covered in color. So yeah, if you can manage to block these blue spawns whilst not having anyone block these pink spawns, the enemy team will spawn, and you will flip them to the pink spawn. However, there are certain situations at P1 where multiple teams can, die at once. Multiple people from each team can die at once. So let's say, as an example, there's two people you've got one from your team and one from the enemy team blocking this blue spawn, which means neither team can then spawn there. But yet you've got a teammate who's just spawned in pink, and you've just killed someone on the enemy team. So just to picture this. You've got an enemy and your teammates in this blue area blocking the blue spawn. A teammate of yours has just also spawned in blocking this pink spawn. An enemy then, the next spawn they're going to be going to is this teal circle here. So this teal circle will be used if pink's blocked and blue is also blocked. Now, that's fairly straightforward. So if let's say for example, you spawn in teal, you know for a fact that an enemy is both blocking your P2 spawn and the spawn in warehouse. So you can push out here and watch the cross, and you can almost guarantee you're going to find someone who's spawned parallel to you from this pink area. So that's a nice little bit of info to have. We do also have a really rogue spawn back here in yellow. This is a very unusual spawn. It doesn't seem logical from what I can tell. I've looked at a lot of VODs, and it's not really logical. But if you spawn here, it basically means that your team has got possession of this side of the map, and they've pushed up quite a lot. As soon as you have another a member of teammate over the halfway line and they're pushed up, you will spawn. But from what I can tell, if your team are all sort of in this general vicinity and the enemy team are all sort of pushed up towards the middle, you'll spawn in this yellow area. Moving on to P2, as I say, it's in this little area bit here where you've got a little computer and a catwalk going across the top. There are two, again, major spawns here. You've got the blue spawn, which is in the back past the submarine, and then you've got a pink spawn, which is back here past the warehouse. As you can see, again, they're both fairly equidistant to the hill, which is sort of how it's intended. Now, I do bear in mind that these spawn guides here will cover 99% of situations. The data in the game encompasses every possible situation, and unfortunately I don't have the capacity in order to display that, but the logic I'm providing you here will cover 99% of possibilities you will see when you're actually in the game. And also these spawn points, although the blue circle is directly here, it might mean that they also spawn a little bit here, and similarly with the pink, it might mean that they're not necessarily going to spawn exactly here, but in this general vicinity is a spawn point. So yeah, anyway, The most desirable spawns, in my humble opinion, you're going to want for this hill is these back blue spawns, sorry, because the P3 bizarrely is at this submarine. So you want these spawns to get an easy rotation through towards P3. In order to block this blue spawn, so let's say, for example, you want the enemy team not to spawn here. You don't want the enemy team to spawn there, you want the enemy team to spawn out. Now, in order to do that, you either need to get yourself all the way back here on these two little blue markers, or generally in this area. But there's a head glitch here, which is nice, which is why I've marked it specifically. And there's a couple of head glitches back here as well. If you want to, block this blue spawn, you can go there, which means you've got to grab all the way around. It's a bit of a long haul. However, you can also play through mid, get to top third, and you can then block the spawn like that way. Or if you're in the back, so this is a little bit misleading, but if you're in the back side of P2 in this garage area, you will also block this spawn. So it's very crucial that if you're spawning out, if you don't spawn here, an enemy is either in this area at the back with you, or the backside of P2 just here. Now, pink spawns. Now, you don't really want to be blocking pink spawns because, you want the enemy to spawn there because it's not the ideal spawn. This isn't the spawn you want. You can block it by being in the vicinity or generally being in this area. The reason I've marked these as block points is because let's say you have, again, similar situation to P1, you have a teammate and an enemy in this blue block spot. That will block both for you, your team, and the enemy team, this back spawn back here. This then, let's say you get the first kill, your enemy then spawns up here. They're going to be running through the tunnel, and they're gonna feed through that way. If they're in this block point, when you spawn in and you're blocked from P2 from these blue spawns, you'll spawn in this too. You'll spawn in this warehouse. Now, what does that tell you? If you spawn in this warehouse, run towards the hill and look right, because chances are you've got someone who's spawned in pink on the enemy team blocking these initial spawns, because otherwise you'd have spawned here, don't forget, running through mid, and then you'd be able to hopefully get a free kill across the map. You do see a lot of gunfights happening across the map here, but realistically, when P2 drops, you do want to be you want to be playing for these back hills there. And the reason for that is, as you can see, P3 is just here. Now, bear in mind, this spawn that I'm reviewing here is on the new patch. The pros and the CDL are on old patch. If you're wondering why this differs to what you've seen on the CDL, it's because currently the pros are playing on a different patch. The spawn system is completely different. And on P3, you had a spawn point back here. As far as I can tell, I've watched multiple VODs. There is no longer a spawn point back here in P3. Instead, you have two main spawn points. You have one next to P2 near the oil tankers and the silo, and you have another all the way back here towards like the dock side, but like past Long. Now, I like that. I prefer that one. It means it's a proper 50-50 play to the hill. Both teams have got to run a fairly similar distance towards the P3 in order to get hill time. Now, this just says, in my head, no one can spawn back here. If you can somehow maintain a god spot back here and stay alive, you're going to be doing wonders for your team, because no one's going to be able to spawn with you. Any kills you get are going to spawn them out, and you're going to give your team, you're going to do huge favors for your team. Now, in my opinion, the spawn points you actually do want for this, if it were me, would be pink. Now, again, the reason for that is there's not a lot of time gathered on P3. P3 is a very open hill. It's so easy to get killed off it. So you're really playing to keep this white. You don't want to, you want it contested. You don't want your team or the enemy team, or you want your team, but you don't want the enemy team to get it. You want to keep it white, and you don't want to throw away your life too much. So therefore, P4 is the most important hill whilst this is up. You want to be playing for these spawns and making sure that you've got an easy route towards P4, which is just on this tunnel, just like so. In order to get these spawns, this can't be blocked. So let's say, for example, an enemy member of, well, an enemy, it's the easiest way to say it, can't be in this comms unit, in this glass, whatever you guys want to call it, or long. If they're there, you can't spawn pink. In often cases, that will means you will spawn in yellow, which is even further back from the hardpoint. It's a proper stretch, but it's not too much of a problem because you can just run through town when you're pretty much there. In order to block these blue spawns, you can be in P2 or just anywhere in this sort of general vicinity, but that is a secondary spawn for this hill. There's also another spawn, and this is a fairly popular spawn, which is why I've made the circle a little bit bigger than normal, is this teal, this light blue here in Warehouse. This is a fairly decent spawn to obtain because you can pretty much cut off the map, and it forces, if you spawn here, you know that they're not in this area, and if you get any kills in this area, let's say you're sat here where my red cursor is currently, you're going to be blocking both this blue spawn and this light blue spawn, and it means that the enemy team are going to be spawning over here, which means you can cut off the whole map. If you get on a good heady or stand on something really, if you're on this catwalk or something like that, you can cut off the whole map, and you can force the enemy team to run just across this long, and which means your people back here, your supporting teammates, only have to watch the one direction. Now you notice there's a bit of a weird of a yellow spawn here. Again, that doesn't happen frequently. In order to spawn yellow, you need every other spawn point blocked. But with P3 being such a mixy hill, that's not, you know, that's a probable thing to happen. Just bear in mind, if you do spawn in yellow, it means that someone's pushing out long, someone's pushed out this P2 side as well, and it just basically means if you've got teammates on P3 and you spawn in yellow, they just need to try and stay alive because they've got people coming from all directions because every other spawn point's blocked. Moving on to oh, sorry, I should have changed this. It's not P3, that's P4. That's an admin error, my bad. But P4, this is, is in this tunnel corner here. It's an absolute money hill, so it's essentially try and keep spawns for this hill. There are, I'm going to say, take it with a pinch of salt. There are two major spawn points on this hill. One is this back pink here, and one is this blue area. Now, I've got two different blue areas here, but I'll get into that. But generally speaking, this is where you're going to be spawning. And again, you're equal distant from the hill. Now, the best side, in my opinion, to get the most amount of hill time here is coming from this area. From here, you can either get in through, the wide door, or you can get in through small. Whereas if you're spawning mid, the only way you can really get to the hill is through this one little entrance. So it means that the people holding P4, have only got really one place to watch if they're spawning this side. So let's say you want to break the spawns, you want to flip spawns, and you want to spawn whoever your enemy team, stop them from spawning out pink. What you have to do is you have to get through glass or comms room, whatever here, and then as soon as you're in this sort of vicinity here, the enemy team will no longer be able to spawn here. Now, let's say, for example, you are in, you're blocking this, and you've also got a teammate of yours blocking these blue spawns over here as well. Where do they spawn? They spawn teal, which means that if you're here and your teammates are also here, you need to be careful that they're not going to spawn really close right here, because it could mean that you can get some early kills off the rip. But what also can happen is when you're running through here, you see them spawn, they suddenly spawn here because you're blocking every other place, and you're wondering why the hell have they done that? Just be aware of the minimap and make sure that your teammates aren't blocking both of these, because they will spawn here. Now, if you want, let's say they can spawn here. Now, let's say you're spawning blue side and you're applying a lot of pressure to the hill. If you're on the hard point, or towards this side of the hard point where my cursor is now, not towards mid-map, but towards the back side of the hill, they will not be able to spawn blue, and that means they're going to be spawning here. So this is good info to have. If you know your teammate is blocking blue, this dark blue here, and you're in the hill, and your teammate's washing over mid, they've got your whole mid entrance, you're absolutely fine. You can guarantee the enemy team are going to be spawning back here in this top right hand corner every single time, which means you have pretty much one way or two ways to watch, and it's just this entrance. So this is a really good hill to get a lot of time on, because the spawns are fairly linear. Now, looking at these two big blue spots, the reason there's two of them is because these spawns sort of work the same way, but depending on where the enemy team is weighted on the map, depends where you're going to be spawning. So let's say the enemy team are pushed out towards this side of the map, and they're playing this long area back here where my cursor is currently. Chances are you're not going to spawn over here, you're going to spawn the other side of P2 towards the silos. However, if the enemy team is pushed up the warehouse side of things, if they're spawning teal, probably, and it's pushed up the warehouse side, you know, they're going top snow, chances are you're not going to spawn here, you're actually going to spawn on the left side of the map. So where you spawn on this side is a good way for you to be able to know whether or not the enemy team are either pushing around your left or pushing right towards P5. Chances are they're going to be pushing P5. So if you do spawn here, not here, you just need to be careful and think about rotating. So clearly I can't add up or count, but this isn't P4. This is actually P5. Apologies for this. It's shocker. But P5 is this hill, which is, again, fairly open, but your teams can actually obtain a decent amount of hill time on this hill. The two major spawn points here are pretty much in P2 or back P2 and back tunnel. These are the two major spawn points. If you want to be real finicky about this, you want the blue spawns. In my opinion, you want the blue spawns. It sets you up. You can see pretty much most of the hill from blue. It sets you up for P1, where you can be top third and look over, and therefore it sets you up for P2 as well. So I'm thinking long game here. And the reason you want blue spawns rather than pink is because pink are very easy to block. If you have a teammate, let's say you're spawning blue, and you have a teammate pushed up towards top snow, top office, that sort of area, that'll actually block this closed warehouse spawn, and it will spawn the enemy team all the way over here, which is almost the other side of the map. So that's the desired setup, in my opinion. You have someone blocking the blue spawns, maybe top third, maybe in P2, maybe silos, that sort of area. You have someone on hill, and then you have someone pushed out either top snow or in top warehouse or something like that. That will force the enemy to spawn here. So if you see your teammate going a little bit rogue in warehouse, and you know these spawns are blocked, watch your mid, because what will happen is they'll spawn, well, they'll spawn out like this. They'll have to either run through glass or run through long, and then, you know, they've got to take a wide route to get to the hill. If your teammate isn't spawning here, let's say your teammate hasn't pushed up, it's very essential to watch your pushes through the warehouse, because realistically, they're spawning here, they're either going to run through the warehouse or they're going to run through the tunnel. So as long as you've got someone back here watching the tunnel, all you need to do on hill from this side is watch the warehouse. There's only really one door they can get in from this way, and realistically, they're not going to, if they spawn pink, they're not going to run all the way around, because that's just long-winded. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say you want to try and break out of these spawns. The first thing you want to do, let's say you're spawning in pink, the first thing you want to do is obtain control of this pink area so that the enemy can't spawn you out. The worst case scenario that can happen if you're spawning in pink circle is that you end up getting pushed out because an enemy member, apologies, spawns you out towards teal. That's not what you want to happen. It's the worst case scenario. So I'd recommend going through tunnel, playing some routes, trying to get through. And even if you switch, let's say if you can get through mid and get into this blue spawn, this will spawn them out. This will make them spawn. They won't be able to spawn in the blue because you're blocking it, and they'll spawn towards teal. So yeah, that's what I do. But realistically, you want to be rotating to the P2 side of the map for when P5, not 4, eventually drops. So yeah, that's going to be it. I hope it makes sense. If you have any questions specifically about the spawns, you can either let me know down in the comments, or, as I say, join my Discord, chat me on there. I can be a little bit more responsive on Discord without spamming the comments on a YouTube video, of course. But yeah, let me know what you thought. If there's any criticism you want to see, obviously other than the wrong labeling of the hard points, if there's anything you think I can improve upon from this video going into the rest of the maps, because there's another 4 hardpoint maps I'm going to be doing with this format, let me know. But other than that, that'll do for me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao for now.